Alyssa Milano shows us that hypocrisy has no bounds. A script doctor joins us this morning on Midnight's Edge in the Morning. Good morning once again. It's Wednesday, aka Hump Day for all you folks out there in YouTube land. Welcome once again to Midnight's Edge in the Morning. I am Tom Connors. With us as always is the boss man Andre.
Greetings everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for being here. And also with us is Script Doctor, the one, the only. How you doing?
Good. I'm good. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody.
So strange to have a Canadian here this early. I don't know what that means.
I hear you.
The awesome thing is that then we have like a good Nordic dominance in the show, which is always awesome, isn't it?
And Casperius, who actually we missed a super chat just as the show was ending the other day, sends us another one today. Thank you so much for that one and this one, saying just because, again, the sequel. Thank you so much, Casperius. We appreciate that.
Yes, we appreciate both the previous one that we just missed plus this one. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your support. That really is what keeps the light on here. And with that, also welcome to everyone in the chat. We really appreciate having you here. We have quite a few diverse people. We have Willie Woodward watching us. Awesome to have you here. Sandra Hammerstag is here. Rory Mitchell, Simon Templar, Corey Andrews is here. So it's really nice to see all of you here. So greetings, everyone. Do us all a favor. It would be fantastic if you could help share this, because this platform very often does a horrible job at notifying people that we are, in fact, live. Very often the notifications go out way after the show has finished. So it would be great if you could help, like, and share. And we really like your support. So we are deeply shameful of having to ask you more, but that's really kind of how it is. But let's get into the topic of the day, because Alyssa Milano, now that her side appears to be winning. I know that the final word is not said on that, but going by appearances, her side appears to be winning. And now she has decided that it's time to extend an olive branch to the political opponents, and that now we must all come together in unity. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time exploring the full hypocrisy of this. I will simply say that she also was fully behind the defund the police movement and then had no qualms about using the services of the police the moment that some kid went hunting for pigeons or something in her neighborhood. But the point here is that now she wants to extend an olive branch. But we as fans, many of us have been labeled as toxic, problematic, what have you not, while the entertainment brands that we all like have gone completely political and all in one direction. So here's like the question now, when there appears to be a shift of power on the cards, could they be extending an olive branch to audiences and maybe cut down on the "you are toxic, you are problematic" rhetoric? That is something that I'm curious about. And luckily, we have someone with boots on the ground in Hollywood that's actually working there joining us today in Script Doctor. But before we begin into all of this, because I know people that watch us, they know you from before. But for anyone that might be new here, why don't you give us like a brief description of, I was going to say your name or anything, but how did you get started in the industry, and what is it exactly that you do?
Okay, well, how I got started was through an internship at Paramount, actually, just right before the Paramount Viacom split. So I was a screenwriting student and English major in Canada, and I did an application and sent a spec script, a Star Trek spec script, actually, to Paramount. And then I got a response accepting me in, and I flew down there. And I got the awesome privilege of hanging out on the Paramount lot for a few weeks before we get a letter from up above saying, oh, yeah, the Viacom and CBS are splitting up, or Paramount are splitting up. So you're out of an internship. And I kind of I had some money still, and I bounced around in LA and was doing various assistant jobs and story analyst jobs and writing and pitching scripts, and made a little reputation for myself as being able to fix up dialogue and story structure. And the inside world or inside baseball term is like script doctor, and one of the most famous ones is Carrie Fisher, at least to this fandom community. And that's some of the stuff I started doing as I was pitching television shows and feature films all around town. I've been doing that for nearly more than 15 years now, by bouncing between California and Canada, working my way with any job I can get. So I do have this benefit compared to other people that have done a full move to the United States, which is that I get out of the bubble at least 6 months a year. Not by goal. I really wanted to actually move to California and work there full time, but the jobs are few and far between, and you can only stay so long. So yeah, and this last year, since the lockdown, was the first time I hadn't gone back to the United States. So it's a weird thing getting adjusted to. But pretty much what I do is that if you're a screenwriter or a producer or a director or what have you, and you're having trouble with a scene that you can't quite nail, you come to people like me, and we give a crack at it. And in most cases, we're pretty successful. But yeah, that's what I do.
Fantastic. And as such, you obviously have like your ear on the ground a little bit, so you know a little bit about what's going on in the industry. And the latest trends, and you have like this adage that in Hollywood no one knows anything, or no one knows anything.
Yep.
No one knows nothing.
Yeah, which I think is a truth with some modifications required. But basically, how has this last year been? Just to set like the stage, what has kind of like what's been the driving factor behind what's been done to Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, the like? You've seen like the trends, and they've taken it a little bit back with The Mandalorian, but that was before the current situation. What's happening now? And also now you have like this shift in power. How is that going to how do you think that is going to affect film production, greenlighting decisions, and the general atmosphere in Hollywood, which again is going to determine what makes up on screen? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, from what I've been discussing with some friends that are still down there, and those in the industry, it feels like it's another powder keg ready to burn or blow up. Like, it's just, I don't 100% know. Like, as you said, the adage, nobody knows anything in Hollywood. That's from William Goldman, a great screenwriter, did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid and The Princess Bride. And yeah, like people are very hopeful. At least some of the people in my circles are really hopeful with this change in power. But I think there's the ones that do have the money and the big money making decisions are kind of betting on everything kind of returning to a form of normalcy by the new year. I have my reservations just because you can't predict what's going to happen, and Hollywood is not something that's known for trailblazing or setting new standards. They're more like following the trend. And so yeah, it's really I wish I had a clearer answer for you, because really everybody's giving me different information. Some people are like, yep, everything's going to get back to normal. There's going to be a vaccine for the coof. Productions are going to resume scheduled by like March or something. And everybody's got their own predictions of how great the world is going to be by February. And I just don't know. I think for the last year, we've seen Hollywood both literally and metaphorically in those first few moments of Demolition Man, just burning and on fire. And even Sylvester Stallone can't swoop in to save you at this point. So it's, yeah, I wish I could have more details for you. Just nobody's, it's still true. Nobody knows anything right now. Unless you've got an office shared with Bob Iger and some of the other heads of other studios. Yeah.
As for those that are now predicting that everything is gonna be back to March or something, are these the same people that predicted that everything is gonna be back be normal by June in March? Are those the same people? Before you answer that, we just got a $50 super chat from Jay Bird the Third. Thank you so much. We really appreciate support like that. That again keeps the lights on here. And for that, he says, if the only issue with SJW Hollywood was disagreement over policy issues, that would be one thing. But calling us ists and phobes and publicly marking us for violence, screw you hard. My wallet is closed forever to anything you're associated with.
Wow. Thank you so much, Jay Bird. Rob might be able to get onion rings this week.
What a treat.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant. But anyway, so yeah, we see like in the comments here, we have You Ain't Shite, who says Alyssa Milano can get stuffed.
Right.
Whereas Sander Hammerslag in his European fashion says she can sit on her olive branch. Yeah, so not a lot of support for her in the comments. But getting back to my question, the people that made the predictions that everything is going to be back to normal by like February, are these the same people that back in March of this year predicted everything is going to be back by June? Because I still do not see any kind of plan for the lockdowns. I do not see any kind of plan for how we're going to do this. Only lockdown forever until there's a mythological vaccine.
Well, some of the ones that I've spoken with that are friends of mine were pretty much doubtful as soon as this thing hit that things are going to get back to normal by June. They're pretty much saying like the year's done. They're not. Only a couple of them are saying things are going to go back to normal till February. For the others, the mentality was that because of the current political climate, nothing was going to happen for 2020, and it's not going to happen, and nothing's still not going to happen until things sort of change. That's from their perspective, even though some of their bosses and some of the other people are very desperate to find new ways to get back to work and make some money. It's because that's what they need to do. A lot of Hollywood productions are pretty much on bank loans in some regards. They don't often use liquid cash. I think even Blumhouse, which makes very cheap, affordable horror films, they still use bank loans, but they make a whole bunch of money back, so they're a very reliable studio. And on top of that, they're also, I mean, as far as I can tell, I haven't heard anything coming out of them. There's nothing really political about the people inside that production house. I don't hear them calling fans names. When I go through the social media accounts of those that make accusations, it's a really small number compared to how many people actually work in Hollywood and those that are in power. You could probably point to maybe less than 10 people specifically that are just very loud and very frequent, and Alyssa Milano being one of them, unfortunately, making those types of accusations. But for the most part, a lot of other Hollywood people are staying quiet, at least the ones that make some of the bigger decisions. And that's something to sort of pay attention to. There are some people, especially in Warner Brothers and Sony and MGM and other studios, that they're just not saying anything with regards to fans or how they view them or what have you, because they're smart enough to know that they're not in position to sort of lose anybody. So we have to kind of keep that in mind. I mean, I'm very supportive of anyone in the chat, anyone listening, anyone anywhere that wants to sort of vote with their wallet when it comes to quality of a product and how they're being treated by the spokespeople involved. That's like the best type of thing you can do, because again, if you're the person that you want to buy something from, like in this case, entertainment, is calling you a jerk or whatever, you don't have to, you're not obligated to buy that product from them. That there's a little bit of a social relationship that has to be taken into consideration. So I mean, it's just a really messed up situation right now. I've never known in the history of Hollywood ever for a group of actors, talent, in whatever vein to make such accusations like, "Oh, you don't like my work, you're a man baby." Then it's It's
Or an
just not the
istophobe,
case.
yeah.
Yeah, or an istophobe or whatever. Like using such derogatory language is just unheard of. In most cases, it's like, you didn't like it, darn. How can I get better? That's usually the mentality. Like that's what I learned in school. That's what I learned from some of the talent and actors, directors, and writers that have been working in the industry before me. That's usually the mentality. It's like, crap, we screwed up. All right, how do we fix it? How do we make the next one
Right.
better? Because that's the goal. And to see that kind of be thrown away as a mentality to some of the more prominent players, at least the loudest voices, is really heartbreaking, because you're costing the potential of future writers, directors, actors, their ability to really wow and change audiences for the better.
Absolutely. One thing I will say also is that although the really vocal and aggressive ones, the ones that are truly divisive, they may be a minority. Sadly, they are the minority that are the the flag bearers.
Yep.
They are the ones that get the attention. They are the ones that get the press. They are the ones that get the brownie.
Well, you know what they say about the squeaky wheel and all that shit. But
Yeah, it's basically like a drop of dirt in a clean pool. It sort of spreads and takes over, even though.
Especially if you got somebody who's got a spotlight on them.
Yep.
Then that squeak is going to get magnified times a billion. And that's where things like social media come in, because that's what social media does. Especially for celebrities. It makes, if you're already a celebrity, it makes you feel like you've got everybody's ear. And if you're just a regular Joe, you feel like a celebrity. I mean, because you feel like everybody's paying attention to you. I mean, it gets to this point where you got to sit there and try to get everybody's fucking attention. And that's where I think a lot of the virtue signaling comes in and all this other bullshit. And, you know, they attack fans, and then they get a bunch of fucking people on there going, oh, good for you. You're right. They're nothing but a bunch of istophobes, you know, a lot of bootlickers on the ground, you know, just to make them feel better, like Ryan Johnson always has.
Yeah, well, social media has this one big flaw to it, which is that it benefits those that go after the low-hanging fruit. So the easiest argument to make is going to spread the fastest, and as opposed to someone making a harder argument or something that actually comes deep within themselves and is genuine, that takes a little longer to gain traction.
Well, and it's a bit difficult to be a real articulate in 250 characters as well. There's that. It's
exactly.
Real easy to give a hot take, and it's a lot harder to actually make a decent argument, like you're saying. We got a couple super chats here, though, Andre. I think we lost Andre.
Yeah, no, I'm here. I just forgot to unmute, Rob style. So, no, the first one we got is from who says, "Hi, gents. It's been hard to watch the level of disrespect the industry has had for fans. Will the healing process start with a defamation clause?" Well, maybe it should.
It should, but I doubt it, because that's the problem we have right now. And you see things getting worse and worse all the time. I mean, it'll go from a point to where they are accusing us of these things till we're actually being more than accused of these things. That's where I'm afraid of. The accusations, even though baseless, will become reality in some way, shape, or form. I feel like I'm just scared we're going to get to that strange point at some point.
Yeah. And Silver Nova, again referring to Alyssa Milano probably extending an olive branch. He's just wondering if there are any thorns in that olive branch. And they're probably poisonous too. So, yeah.
Well, of course, yeah. It's real easy for you now to sit here and extend an olive branch. If you really wanted to impress me, bitch, you should have fucking done something 4 years ago. You know, that's when you should have been standing up going, you know, the divisiveness needs to stop. Sorry, Script, go ahead.
Well, yeah, that's the one thing I remember in December of 2016 is that I knew actors and producers and whatnot that were literally going to a protest that said, "Not my president." My response was, listen, the people spoke. Let's just wait and see before we, presume judgment. That's kind of how it should work. And we can't be divisive because people, he was voted in. I mean, whether you like him or not. I mean, it was easy for me to say I'm Canadian. I don't really have a huge stake politically.
Yeah, with me.
That part. But but I was just trying to be objective and friendly because I knew that I'm not writing whatever I write for one political party. I'm writing it for anyone of any political party because maybe I have a story personally that I can tell through allegory that might allow others to relate to that and brighten their day and give them something to look forward to. That's my inclination as a writer, and that's a lot of writers' inclinations, and a lot of actors' inclinations, and directors as well. But a switch just flipped, and we kind of got to see a lot of people that weren't really in the business to do the stuff that the business demands of them. They basically wanted to be in politics, but not have to have the responsibility of making decisions politically, so to speak.
Maybe COVID is making more of her hair fall out. Anyway, Marty sends us $5 a fellow Canadian in the chat. Says the irony here is celebrities did have our ear until they started insulting the fans. That low-hanging fruit. Yeah, I mean, and here, again, I think it's, and I'm not giving these celebrities any kind of fucking excuse here, so don't take it that way. But I feel like, again, we have this situation where social media has become its own double-edged sword to where celebrities now get instant feedback. You know what I'm saying? Like, back in the day, it was, they didn't necessarily, they could go out and say something and it would, go through the papers and on television, and they might hear something, come back from one of their agents or the studio if they said something stupid. But nowadays they get instant feedback when they say something stupid. So of course they're going to get all defensive and go out there and say more stupid shit.
And the publicist companies too have changed dramatically in the social media age. Beforehand, it was all about putting out fires. Now it seems like starting them.
Well, you get one end where you got, but then you get the other side of it where you got like, what's her face from Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that.
Zoe Saldana?
Zoe Saldana fucking apologizing for playing a black woman, for fuck's sake. I mean, that's where we've gotten. It's that bad. I mean, it goes both ways. Again, I'm not giving them excuses, but it's that reactionary social media thing that stirs these things up. And, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been a thing. Nobody would have fucking said a word about it, or it would have been so far off that it would have never even registered.
I mean, the best thing that can come out of this is the population understanding that celebrities themselves are not really celebrities. They should be admired for their ability to entertain and perform, but not beyond that. That's the other issue too. They can't be forced into positions that are more than what they're capable of doing, because that's just detrimental. They have to choose to try and do that, and they have to prove to us that they're capable. And in most cases, to me, it seems like, no, they're being manipulated by their agents, by the managers, by the publicists to do anything they can to stay relevant so that they can still be sold for projects and make money. And they're being kind of manipulated around. And some of them are genuine with their horrible things they say, and some of them are just saying what they want to say to stay in the conversation. Because again, an actor's career is not guaranteed. There's a reason why they fight to get paid millions of dollars, because if they don't get a job after that, they're not working again, and they got to live off that millions of dollars, which is easy to do for you, me, or anyone else not living in California. But in California, trying to stay as an actor, that's not a whole lot of money to live off of.
And most of them aren't smart enough to do that. Yeah, like
exactly,
to put it away or anything like that. I've heard almost every famous person. I've heard their story about the first, big paycheck they get, they spend it all right away, and then they're like, "Oh shit, I got to pay taxes."
Yeah, even William Shatner, he got a great paycheck. He invested in some minerals in Canada, and then Canada had to pass a law to prevent mining of those minerals because they didn't want ecological disaster, and he lost a lot. So since then, he's been very, very smart with his finances, and he's been acting for 60 odd years.
See, and Andre will know it from that perspective. If you get a nice payday like that, do something with it that isn't gonna put you in the poorhouse in a year.
Yeah, don't blow it on cars, and remember the tax collector is coming.
Exactly. Well, yeah. I just watched a deal the other day where Will Smith was talking about just that thing. When he first got his first big payday, he talked about when it was crazy. He was on live TV, but yet he was broke. He was more broke than the people in the audience. He's like, he went and spent all his money before he knew it, and if it wasn't for the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he probably wouldn't be anywhere today.
I remember Henry Rollins said something about that, like at the time when Liar came out. He called it MTV famous. His face was plastered all over TV all the time with that music video, but he was broke.
Yep. Yeah. He bought it. His dad yelled at him. He's like, "You only got one butt. What you need 7 cars for, son?" And he's like, "Yeah." He's no shit. A year later, they were all gone to pay the taxes he didn't pay. He learned the hard way, just like a lot of them do.
Yeah, and before we move on to other comments, I would just say, like, Marty was the one sending a massive super chat to us both yesterday and to Mr. H for that matter. He was going to take a break from social media. I hope that's working out for you. That Alyssa Milano didn't break that. Anyway, just take care of yourself, you and everyone else watching. But yeah, it appears that in the chat there is not a lot of support for dear Alyssa. Is there?
I'm not surprised. I mean,
what
do you expect when somebody sits there and pokes the bear for 4 years and then they're like, turn around and they're like, hey, bear, let's be friends. You know, what do you expect? It just doesn't. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard.
Yeah.
You know.
I also saw another. I'm trying to find the comment here. It was someone that asked us if we had heard of some publication closings, not girls or something.
Yeah, I can't. It was way back there. I don't know if we lost it or not. No, I hadn't heard it about that, but I'm not sure what publication that is, to be honest with you.
I saw Ethan Van Sciver make a video about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is.
I know they erected a Batman statue in the DC area, so all those poor writers that are being fired have to walk by that when they leave.
I've been trying to get Uncle Ethan on the show, but hopefully we can work that out in the beginning of next month. But yeah, I did want to talk about this though. I don't know if you guys saw this. Speaking of actors not getting paid for shit, Netflix has done Dave Chappelle a solid, and we can understand why, since he's one of their big paydays over there. They pulled the Chappelle Show from Netflix because Dave Chappelle blasted Viacom CBS for licensing his show without paying him. Well, as of this, the show is still on HBO Max, and as far as I know, I'm assuming it's probably on CBS All Access. I don't know at this time. I am not looking, and I don't really care. But the point is, again, here we have a situation where a huge corporation is screwing somebody out of their money. I mean, are we surprised? No. But Dave says, should I do it in his voice?
Just do it. Yeah.
People think I made a lot of money from the Chappelle Show. Chappelle says in a video filmed during the recent stand-up set in which he reminisces about his comedy career. When I left the show, I never got paid. They didn't have to pay me because I signed the contract. But is that right? I found out that these people were streaming my work and they never had asked me. They never have to tell me. Perfectly legal because I signed the contract. But is it right? I didn't think so either. That's why I like working for Netflix. I like working for Netflix because when all those bad things happened to me, that company didn't even exist. And when I found out they were streaming Chappelle Show, I was furious. How could they not know? So you know what I did? I called them and I told them that this makes me feel bad, and you want to know what they did? They agreed and they took it off their platform just so I could feel better. That's why I say that's why I fuck with Netflix, because they paid me my money and they do what they say they're going to do. And they went above and beyond what you could expect from a businessman. They did something just because they thought, I think I might think that what they did were wrong, and I do. I think if you're fucking streaming that show, you're fencing stolen gold. So there you go.
Well, his show existed before the streaming contract, which led to a writer's strike later.
That's
so,
what
yeah,
I think that's what he's getting at.
Contract.
That's what I think he's getting at there. Yeah.
So I mean, ethically, Viacom CBS should have renegotiated that with Chappelle before they did the agreement with Netflix. Ethically.
Well, and I'm sure he's not alone. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are sucked up in this.
Definitely.
Kind of thing that just don't have the sway or the power, that Chappelle has. And again, I can understand Netflix playing ball with him. He's one of their golden gooses. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Here's like the thing. They're like thinking we can probably get like 20 more specials out of this guy. And if doing so requires us sacrificing this one thing, which isn't nearly as profitable as any of his other stuff, then so be it. So I think that this is a case where really no one is in the wrong, because he says that, Viacom CBS is licensing his show without paying him. But as he said, he signed the contracts, and he signed them ages ago. Were the contracts unfair? Maybe. That's not for me to say or mean anything about, but we know that Viacom CBS are really, really hurting for money, and they're going to monetize and license everything they can right now. And that they just did what was according to contract. I don't think there was like any ill will on their behalf for that. Of course, if they get some blowback from this, they might not do it again.
Here's
I
the
don't
thing:
know,
you got to go back to how this whole thing ended, because Chappelle was on the verge of getting a huge payday from them to do the next however many seasons it was for the show.
I think it was
and
like
that's when,
season 3 or 4. Yeah.
Yeah, and then that's when he freaked out.
That was a different company. None of the people that did that are there anymore.
Yeah.
So I think that the people that did this right now, I think that they might not have been aware of the history or anything. Just remember, in the entertainment industry, your career can be very short. And
that is very true.
Yeah, and so I'm of the opinion that the people that were involved with all the crap that went down between him and CBS and stuff, they're gone now. And the last remnants, they probably went with Moonves. So that now is probably a completely new batch of people that may not even have been aware of what was going on. Of course, now they're going to get a very public reminder. But I think that when they see like this thing here in Deadline Hollywood, I would imagine that they're sitting at the office in Viacom CBS and they're like, did you know about this? The hell's going on? What's this thing?
Yep. And also, to be fair, at the time Chappelle signed that contract, it was a very lucrative and beneficial contract to him. There was no reason for him not to sign it, because at that time, with regards to the rights and licensing of that show, streaming did not exist. There was no reason for it. Nobody even imagined for it. So the contract itself didn't have that specific element to it. So it ended up being, when the method was invented, it ended up being something that kind of did not allow for rights to be, paid out to Chappelle. If it was done on network television again or another cable show, Chappelle would be getting a license fee for that. No question. But because streaming is a completely different entity, and because of this invention, it did cause a huge writer's strike, which I remember quite vividly. A lot of contracts had to be renegotiated. It even shows like Friends and Seinfeld and whatnot, they had to get their licensing contracts renegotiated for streaming. And I think because Chappelle kind of, flew to Africa during that time and kind of abandoned the show, I don't think there was anyone left behind who really had Chappelle's interest in mind when it came to that series for the renegotiation. They just said, screw it, and then walked away.
Yeah.
And now when Netflix has had Chappelle's show on, like, how long? They've had it on for a few years, haven't they?
Yeah, I think so.
And so there's no legal violation, but there definitely could have been an ethical one. But if Viacom CBS was looking over the contracts and being like, okay, yeah, let's license this out, just thinking it's a rudimentary contract and not taking into account the history, which again, a big problem with Hollywood is that only a handful of people actually remember what Hollywood was like 5 years prior. So yeah, they just probably thought it was this normal contract. They probably assumed that they would be paying Chappelle and those involved licensing residuals with regards to streaming, and probably thought they were doing it up until that point. I would not be surprised if they
go back to that other
it.
question you had here, Andre, but I wanted to address this real quick because I agree with this. I think that's what he was doing here. I think he possibly even said something to them, and they were like, no, we're not going to take it down, or we're not going to renegotiate our contracts with you. And then he said something to Netflix, and Netflix did it. And, they're not just, somebody put this out in the press, because if Netflix just took it down, it wouldn't have made any headlines. It would have just been, nobody would have thought any different. It just, their contract ran out with it or whatever. This came out in the public for a reason. Somebody put this out there. You know what I'm getting at, Andre?
Yeah, obviously. Like stuff like, whenever something leaks, it leaks. And this is something I can tell you from the world of finance, because it's super true there. Every single time you read a newspaper or article or anything saying you should invest in this or that, or stay away from this or that, blah, no one is saying that out of the goodness of their heart. They always have a plan with it. They're playing an angle, and they're using a media and a leak to do it. And this is exactly the same kind of thing. This is, if not Chappelle himself, then he told someone in his team to leak it so that Netflix would get some credit due, which again just goes to show that they have a great working relationship. Doing what he wanted was a great freaking investment for them. They probably got like 3 more specials out of it. Whereas Viacom CBS are shamed a little bit more, which is probably the last thing they need right now, given their financial situation. And Rob just joined us. Hey, Rob.
See now, Andre, you've completely misread that. Viacom CBS has no shame.
Fuck you, CBS. Fuck you up there.
Well, didn't Chappelle technically leak this during one of the specials he was filming?
Well, that's what they're talking about. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying is like this obviously was him putting it out there. So
yeah.
It was meant to be out there, yeah.
Yeah, otherwise, you know what? They still have that imbecile, the giggling idiot hosting the Daily Show, and he's going to host the Grammys they're desperately trying to raise his profile. So that just tells you where Viacom CBS is, where in their, for God's sake.
Nobody watches the Grammys.
Pay the man! Pay the man!
In the audience at the Grammys, they're all looking at their phones. They're not even watching the Grammys.
They're not watching the Grammys. Yeah, that's
the Simpsons were making fun of that 30 years ago.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, this is basically Chappelle publicly saying, I ain't never working for CBS ever again.
I don't blame you.
And that's pretty much what he's saying. You know, he's like, because he's like, I'll mess with Netflix, but I ain't messing with nobody else. Yeah,
I got my Chappelle show on DVD. I'm happy with that. I'm happy with but the thing is, Viacom has been rerunning Chappelle's show on Comedy Central for the last 15 years. You probably could turn on Comedy Central right now and find it and eventually stumble into Chappelle's show. They've made their money off of this man. And the fact that you're not paying him anymore, that's his colossal middle finger. He was the biggest thing on the network for a time.
Oh yeah. I think Andre's right. I think they will now. I think this is basically a public shaming.
Don't be surprised if they turn around and they sue him.
Yeah, I don't think that they're going to pay him anything now.
I don't know about that.
Okay, fine.
10 years ago, yes. In this climate now, no fucking way. No fucking way do they get away with trying to sue his ass.
They're not going to sue him anything, but I don't think they're going to do anything to try.
They might pay him something, though. You never know.
Well, I don't see any reason. Like, he's already publicly shamed them. That's like now stuck. And then they can pay him something out of the goodness of their hearts. And is that going to change anything? Is he suddenly going to?
Oh, if they do, they'll make sure it's very public. That's my point.
But it's not. It's not going to be the same as the accusation. Do you think there's going to be a single headline saying David Chappelle is cool with CBS? No, that's not going to happen. The headline is this. And then they can fix everything. It's going to get 0 press. So the impression has already been made. They have no reason whatsoever to now give him anything. They can just say, okay, we need to find other creatives to work with because that branch is severed.
Other creatives. Like anyone's going to go want to work for
speaking of Viacom CBS, something interesting has been going down on the Star Trek side of things, if we want to jump to that angle now.
I just want to say that before we start, Comcast, fuck you. You're imposing it's a high limit, but you waited until now, until everyone was on board, until everybody's inside, locked indoors. Kids are doing remote learning to impose internet data caps.
Oh my God! Seriously.
They're having in 12 more states. It's a 1.2 terabyte cap. Not a lot of people are gonna hit it. They estimate maybe only 5% are ever gonna reach the cap. But at the same time, the idea is to scare you into paying an extra $30 a month more to get an unlimited plan.
Which is extortion, if you ask me, because internet this is ridiculous. Since when is internet like gas anymore? It's getting to that point.
Internet's a public utility now. Internet, Mill says 1.2 terabytes. He hit that. but the whole idea, again, everybody is doing remote learning with their kids. Everybody's doing streaming. Everybody's working from, so many people are working from home. Now is when you have the balls to do it. I'm like, you know what? I'm on Comcast right now, but I hope your ass gets sued into oblivion. I hope they sue your ass back into 1978. I really do.
It doesn't make much sense because if anything, they would have had more stress on the lines when it was the lockdown first happened.
Yeah.
Because now things are starting to kind of get back into motion. Like people are out of the home and
they probably couldn't do it because it would have been bad PR.
Well, yeah, this is not going to be good PR anyway. There was that other question you had up there, Andre. I wanted to
Yes,
address
but
too.
before that,
Yeah.
we'll address the super chat, and we'll go back to the question, unless that just disappeared for me.
It may have, but I remember the question.
William Jones for $5 says, "Hey, Script, speaking of getting paid, I sent you another email asking, how do you pitch an idea? Do you want to go through that real fast, Script?
Sure.
Doctor?
Well, I'm just checking my email now, so I don't see anything yet. But William, the first thing is you can't pitch an idea. You can only pitch a story. So you have to have a story, beginning, middle, and end, ready to go. Because ideas are not, you can't copyright an idea, so to speak. At least not in entertainment. So if you go into a studio or an agent or a producer and say, "Hey, I've got this idea for something," but you don't have a script to back it up, there's nothing stopping them from basically just saying, yeah, we can use that idea and hire someone in our team to do it. So you kind of want to have a script. Make sure you have something that you can show them that is on paper, because once you have it like on paper or on a PDF or something, it's yours. Like even though the copyright laws in the United States are a little weird, it's still associated to you. And you can then have a paper trail showing an exchange and a pitch and whatnot to prove that you were involved with this idea from its inception. At least from your point of view, and then it makes the studio that you're presenting to have to work harder to prove that they maybe have had the same idea and story in the works prior. In most of the cases, they don't even go that far to even steal these days, not unless you're looking at questionable studios that associate with questionable extracurricular type of organizations that like to traffic in other goods. So yeah, don't just settle on an idea. Put it to paper, get it all out there, and then try and come up with a log line, usually within 30 words in length, that details your main character, their goal, and the conflict they have to face. And then a one-page synopsis, going into a little bit more detail with that. Package it all together with your script, and then see if you can convey that story succinctly within 2 minutes, because that's probably as much time as you're going to get to of anyone that's willing to listen to your pitch. So it's a tricky process. It requires a lot of practice to hone that craft. But don't just settle on the idea. Put it to pen and paper, and get it refined and ready to go, so you can convey it to lots of other people.
Exactly, great advice there. So everyone remember, ideas are cheap. If you do not want to get screwed, then commit it to paper, have a full script so that they have to buy it from you, if nothing else.
Exactly.
And with that, Tiberius Monk 84 sent us also $5. Thank you so much, saying, "I just want to say thank you to Midnight's Edge for your valuable content and keeping us sane in these difficult times. You have my eternal gratitude." Oh, thank you. We really appreciate that. We really appreciate you spending time to watch us. And if we can help keep you sane in these difficult times, then nothing is better than that. And before we move to the next super chat,
sane, I guess.
yeah, well, speaking of that, Marty sent us another $10. Well, thank you so much. Life equals utilities of power and water. Liberty plus TPOH.
TPOH stands for what exactly?
Anyway, TPOH. We'll get back to what it stands for.
Toilet paper on high.
Yeah, equals utility of a free internet. Outsider perspective for your consideration. Paleo conservatives, libertarians. Paleo-conservative.
The pursuit of happiness.
I can the pursuit of happiness. See, like I can go on.
Right.
See, I can go down a whole rabbit hole where I can say, listen, it's this. The internet was developed by the military, and therefore it should be regulated by the government. It is a government technology.
Yeah, Al Gore invented.
In the
internet.
50s.
We all know that.
Yes,
in the 50s.
It originally started as DARPANet as a way to communicate between the branches of the military.
And universities too. They were hooked up at the same time. Yeah.
But in 1997, all the telecoms got together in Chicago in the summer, what they called the Summer of Love. All right, boys, sky's the limit, and that just means the free market. The free
market bought the internet from the government.
Yeah, the free market bought the internet. Yeah, and the free market has failed. The free market has failed in this instance. This idea of the free market, regulate and deregulate and competition. No, the free market has failed. All it means is they can charge you whatever the hell they want. That's all that means right now. Okay, so I can go down a whole rabbit hole on this. But we need publicly owned broadband in this country. We need and then when the free market came in, Google came in with Google Fiber, showed them they strung their own cables, they strung their own fiber optics, $120 a month for gigabit internet, phone, and cable.
Free market. That's monopoly.
No.
Monopoly.
No. They came in. No, Google came in as a company. They said, we're gonna do this as a shaming exercise to show you how this can be done cheaper and better. They came into certain markets like Kansas City. They came into Austin. They came in, I think, Sacramento. They said gigabit internet, television, $120 a month for the whole lot. And so they looked at the industry, said, "See, look what you can do." And you know what Comcast said? Comcast said, "Nah, you really don't want that. And if you had it, you wouldn't know what to do with it. So we're just going to charge you more for the service you already had." I'm like, "Oh, go fuck yourself. Come on. How about you let me decide if I want it or not?"
He's not totally wrong. It's like that everywhere.
Well, no, you're talking about monopolies and the fact that some of the free markets are doing whatever they can.
It is not.
Yes, a lot of stuff in the United States where the companies organize what areas they cover and they don't cross over. That's creepy.
It's the old Greenfield rules, is what it is. All right, I'm done with this now. I'm done. I'm done before I have a right aneurysm.
Mr. Tickle Trunk sends us a little doggy pooping hearts. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. So people want to hear about some Star Trek. So why don't we get into that good stuff?
Anyway, we had
this is the question. Yes. Forgot about that. Yes.
What do you think will happen to Broadway theater and stage theater in general? Script, is that something you're familiar with?
I think it's dead.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, Broadway theater, stage theater, opera, they're social gatherings. They're tightly spaced. I don't know. I mean, since the cinema really took off in the 80s, stage theater, opera, and whatnot has been more like a boutique type of thing. There would be shows every day, but it'd be far more expensive to go. You kind of made more of an event with it. It wasn't something casual like it used to be. I have no clue what's going to happen right now. I know a lot of the stage productions near where I live are on hiatus. I can only imagine what's going on in London's West End and Broadway in New York and some of the places in Chicago and Atlanta and Florida. So yeah, it's unfortunate for them as well, because there's an energy to a live show that you don't quite get exactly with a movie theater, but the same is true for both. They're all in the same issue of, can they really, can people really go to these functions and make a living and be entertained out of the house?
Yeah, Mike Cat says here, local theater have been doing streamed videos and getting donation or charge minimal price. They've been doing well, but I'm sure that's the exception. But how long will that last? And sooner or later, you can just do it once and stream the same show over and over again and not have to keep paying your actors that fee.
I actually think that theater probably is more likely to make it than the box office, because that's something like, you have such variety in theaters, just as you have like in box office. I think that the huge theaters, they're going to be in trouble, but like smaller, more local, specialized, performance-based theater, I think that's probably going to get bigger, if anything. Like underground performances or performances for like smaller audience and stuff like that. Just like I think there's going to be more independent content on streaming film and stuff like that. I think it's going to be like more independent theater. So I think that theater as we know it is going to be hit hard, but underground theater I think is going to get bigger. It's not going to go anywhere.
Well, it depends on how long this
just
stuff
my
lasts.
guess.
Yeah.
Just my guess.
Well, because the thing is to put together a stage production depending on what you're doing, and then, the type of things that Broadway requires. I mean, they got to pack those houses, and if you can't have packed houses, then
that's true. The theaters does have. I mean, it's a little bit more independent compared to movie theaters and studios. They don't need each other. Theaters, the property is owned by the theater owner, and a theater group comes in, rents the theater, takes a percentage of the ticket sales for the run, and there's the prestige for like getting a Tony nomination or what have you. So like they have an infrastructure that allows them to be a little bit more self-sustainable, but it still requires, again, filling all those seats. So really with this current pandemic, that's the only issue that they have to get over, because if they can't fill every seat in that house, which they need to do for every performance, they're not, that theater group's not going to make money, and that theater house is not going to be able to take a percentage of those ticket sales at the same time. So it's in a similar boat. But I think, Andre, there could be some underground theater popping up once things return a bit more to normality. But I think they'd probably have a little bit more better odds than the studios and the theater relationship, because those are far more expensive on the operating costs and whatnot, and are reliable on content that they have to license out of the studios, where a theater production, you just have to have a group of like 6 or 7 people write a play and put it on, and you're good to go. And that happens. That's a lot easier for a lot of people to do than make a movie and send it out to a theater.
Well, here's the other thing, and that actually might lead us into this little detour just real quick before we get into Star Trek. Because Wonder Woman is coming out on Christmas in many areas, and a couple days before and a couple days after in others. In most places, it will be in theaters. It's supposed to be in theaters in the U.S. At the same time, it's going to be on HBO Max. But I feel like the elephant in the room that they keep ignoring is that AMC, Cinemark, whatever other Regal, all the chains will not carry any movie that is streaming at the same time. And right now, only half of the theaters roughly are open as it is. I don't see any more of them opening in a month. Do you guys?
No, absolutely no way. Not a chance in hell.
And in script, you were talking about, and this will lead us even more into the Star Trek deal too, is Canada's even gotten more shutdowns in the last week, haven't they?
The province of Ontario has started their second big shutdown this past Monday. It's for 28 days. All non-essential businesses are closed or prohibited from doing any type of indoor social business, so to speak. So if you were to go to a restaurant, you can't dine indoor. You can only do takeout. A number of film productions have shut down. And I'm just looking for the IATSE website for the live updates of what's currently in production, and to see, because a couple of titles have vanished that were scheduled for this fall.
Yeah, that'll lead us into the Star Trek talk. But yeah, the part I wanted to address here was, do we even think half the theaters or most of the theaters that are going to be open still are even going to carry this movie? Because they didn't carry Trolls because it was on streaming at the same time. They didn't carry Bill and Ted because of that same reason. I don't see the theaters making an exception for Wonder Woman, especially if it's a big studio. They're going to want to play the same game they have, because if they don't, I see a lot of people getting upset on the other end. It's like, well, wait a minute. How come you'll do Wonder Woman, but you didn't do our movie? I can see that happening as well. What do you guys think real quick before we move into the part about Star Trek that kind of bounces off what Script just said?
I think that Warner are very, very well aware that most of the big theater chains are not going to be showing Wonder Woman 1984. I think that they're fully aware that most theaters, both internationally and otherwise, they're going to be closed at the time when this movie comes out, and that's part of the equation. I don't think that they have any real ambition of getting any kind of money from the box office, and they're going to say that, oh, we're going to put it in the theaters and the box office or in the HBO Max at the same, something that they say to the public. That's just like it's a charade. They know that for all intents and purposes, they put it at the same time. It's effectively an HBO Max exclusive that if you want, you can go see in your local theater, provided that it's not part of a major chain, or that it's open, or if it's open, that you're willing to risk it. They know this. They're fully aware of it. At this point, Wonder Woman is no longer a billion-dollar movie for them. They know they're never going to get the money that they invested into it. They know they are never going to get the money that they hoped they would get at the box office. So instead, it's been reclassified as a loss leader. They've accepted that, fine, we're going to lose a shit ton of this, but we're going to try to make the best out of a bad situation by using it instead. And so as not to admit that in the public, we're going to put it in theaters at the same day, even though we know that there's not going to be any theaters to put it in for all intents and purposes. That's my view.
Actually, I'm going to bounce off what you said in a moment, but I want to hear Robin's script real quick.
No way theaters are going to be open. No chance in hell. But the whole idea, listen, you're running out of options here. Okay. I mean, at some point, the theater owners, National Association of Theater Owners, are going to have to acknowledge that the crowds aren't going to come back, at least not immediately. And I don't think they're going to be. I don't think anyone's going to want to be locked in a darkened movie theater with a bunch of people that may or may not be sick for over a year now. It's so. Listen, you're going to have to bite the bullet at some point. I hate using a cliche like that, but yeah. I mean, but it's going to come to the stark realization. Hey guys, listen, we're screwed. Okay, for the time being. So we got to do the best we can here.
Script?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same vein as you guys. I mean, the best they could hope for is that drive-in movies are able to show Wonder Woman, because
most of them are closed now in the Midwest.
Yeah, some of them are closing for the winter because, I mean, unless you're in the Midwest or like along the equator belt where it's still warm and you can still have drive-throughs operating or drive-ins operating. Sorry. Yeah, I don't see a whole lot of people being able to enjoy this movie, and I don't think a whole lot of theaters are going to be willing to have to turn people away if they can only do, say, a 50% capacity in their screens. I mean, they'll have to, but it's going to hurt them inside, because it's like, why would you want to turn customers away and have to schedule a showing of Wonder Woman like it's a reservation at a restaurant? I don't see it working that way. I think, unfortunately, this is going to be dominant on streaming. Theaters are going to be upset and probably not going to want to take that risk. And Warner Brothers and AT&T are going to have a significant loss on this thing, even though the movie itself might gain a number of subscribers for their HBO Max platform. I know who the writer is, and I don't think it's going to win a whole lot of people over as a result.
Mm-hmm. Big Diddy MRI sends us a $9.99 super sticker. Says, #1 fan. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Love that mustache, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a major mustache there. No, I think Andre's more on than off here because, and I'm not calling him a moron, but I'm surprised he didn't even go to this point. This almost proves some of the things we've been hearing that are going on, and I don't think this choice was made had anything really to do with the loss. They know none of their movies are going to make $1 billion going forward. This has everything to do with HBO Max, and that's why they don't give a shit. Andre's right. This wasn't even just like, we got to make this. No, they did this on purpose because from all the shit we've been hearing, HBO Max has jack squat to work with. They have less than 10 million subscribers. They heard Disney's got 70 million plus, and they freaked the fuck out. Because they've got no Game of Thrones to sell now. They've got nothing to bring in viewers. the platform is just sitting there. They just finally got the Firefox or a Fire Stick thing worked out, but that's still, I don't think they've got the Roku and a few other things worked out yet. So HBO Max needs something to get their ass off the ground. I don't know if Andre wants to bounce off that point and then take us to the next super chat or not, but there you go.
No, absolutely. No, but no, here's like the thing that they are really all in on HBO Max, but they've screwed it up. They've screwed it up with brand confusion. They have screwed it up with distribution deals. They can't go international for years yet. And because of all that, they only have 10 million subscribers.
Actually, only 8.6 million, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They don't even have 10. Whereas Disney has like 10 times as many as they have, and Disney can go worldwide. They haven't done it yet, but they can. Whereas all of the good content for HBO Max, they've promised it away to international partners for years to come. So they're kind of screwed a little bit. And like, how many different HBOs are there?
3, I think now, because that was one of the things because, full disclosure, we're kind of working on something behind the scenes on this. But yeah, there's an HBO Go, and then there's like an HBO something else. I can't remember what the fuck it's called.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. That's how well branded. There's like HBO Max and HBO Go and something else. That's how badly they've screwed it up.
Well,
so, yeah,
and that's
we'll
the thing
get
is
more back into that. But
Gary, I think brought this up, and a few other people did. The biggest mistake they made is instead of rolling over HBO Go into HBO Max, which they should have, they fucked it up because they could have instantly had 20 million subscribers.
Yep. They could have done that. And then they could have like put out the press release. Look how awesome we are. We've got 20 million already overnight. But no, they really...
I'll be honest with you. HBO Max does have a lot of good shit on it. I'll be honest with you. I found some stuff on there. I'm like, whoa, cool. But they don't have anything new.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
They're gonna have cool stuff in the next few years, especially starting with the Snyder Cut. But between
that's what they're trying to fill.
They've got nothing.
They got to fill that void.
Yeah, and Wonder Woman will buy them a little bit of time, at least 1 month, and then it goes off from HBO Max again. Just like when they launched it with all of like these DC titles that were there for a month, and then they disappeared. And that's because they had to like license them from other partners like Netflix and stuff. They had to license back their own content. And I think that's the case with Wonder Woman 1984 as well. They've already promised it to Netflix or something, so they have to license it back to have it on HBO Max. They only get to keep it there for
HBO Now is the other one. Thank you, Mills.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. But so yeah, they are really struggling content-wise, and we'll get back to that in a separate video. Now, speaking of the theaters, we got the super chat from Geno X 1987 saying, "My theater just shut down, which really bummed me out. It was nice seeing old classics on the big screen. Watched Doctor No recently as a classic screening." Yeah, see, there are ways to do it, but
see, that's the thing is, it's like
down. Then what can you do?
Like all these classic movies have shown that people will go to the theater. I mean, Empire Strikes Back was the #1 movie how many times this year? Because of that, I mean, and it wasn't like bringing in big bucks, but it was like showing that people will go if there's something decent to see. There was times I had thought about going because they had some great double features out here at the drive-in. I'm just not a fan of drive-ins, and it's like, well, I already got the Blu-ray at home, so I'll just watch it at home. But just the fact that it's out there, I know other people went, and I constantly had people telling me, I just saw this movie this last weekend, and I was upset that I didn't get to go see Ninja Turtles because it wasn't anywhere nearby, but that happened, I think, 2 weeks ago. They had a screening of that at a few theaters, but, it's like, shit, I mean, if stuff is out there that people want to see, they'll go. It seems like to me. I think the problem is more so the movies. I'll be honest with you. I don't think that there was enough interest in things like New Mutants and what you call Tenet.
New Mutants.
Tenet. That was one I was trying to think of. Tenet, I just don't think was. Now, maybe if they had thrown Wonder Woman out there instead of Tenet, maybe they would have seen a little bit more of an uptick in people going to the theaters. I don't think Tenet was the movie to try and be the canary in the coal mine at this point.
Yeah. Andrew Pitko for $5, thank you so much, says maybe HBO Max should buy Star Trek. Actually, I would rather see them have it than the currents, but unfortunately, I think that contract would come with Alex Kurtzman, so it wouldn't
Probably.
help much. And Miss Martin Muses sent us a
Teresa.
99-cent super sticker of a
And
rose.
it's a
Thank you
rose.
so much. Yeah, that's really very
That's your
much so
trademark.
appreciated. With
Speaking of Star Trek, going back to what Script Doctor said about things going on in Canada, what can you tell us about things that have shut down or disappeared, should we say? From
yeah, I mean, we do know that on November 2nd of this year, Star Trek Discovery Season 4 went into production officially. There was confirmation with Doug Jones, who shaved his head for the Saru makeup that he was doing. But we haven't heard any other updates. And oddly enough, their position on the IATSE union site has vanished, which is strange because all the other ones that you're seeing here as you scroll around,
including Strange New Worlds, is still on there.
Strange New Worlds is still on there, but some of the shows that started in production back in October are still showing listed, which is the case. But for some reason, Discovery Season 4 has left, and I don't think that they've ceased production. I think maybe because of the current lockdown, they've stopped production. Just because Pinewood Studios is it's a huge, huge lot, but I mean, their sets are very self-contained. There's not a whole lot of outdoor shooting. Titans, I know they have a lot of stuff that's out on the streets, so they're able to circumvent that issue with the pandemic. But it's gone from their union, which means that anyone who works at the IATSE union might not be able to work for Discovery Season 4. I don't know. I haven't gotten enough information as of yet. If there's anyone in the chat who happens to be an IATSE union member, please let us know.
Well, it's just funny.
There's a couple that watch us that are.
I was just gonna say, it's funny you brought this to us, Script, this morning, because I had just been hearing rumors that they hadn't started shooting yet. That something happened, and I don't know if everybody. I don't want to speculatorily. Everybody got sent home or something like that, or something happened where they weren't shooting.
Yeah, that might be the case. I wish I had an answer for you. I do know that this Monday a lot of stuff shut down, and that would mean that I guess Star Trek Discovery would have just shy of 3 weeks of production. So they should have at least shot something. But
that's what I heard, is they hadn't shot a damn thing.
What I've heard is that there are apparently people on set, people working on behalf of Secret Hideout that go around, they give production updates and give pep talks and stuff like that. But there's no actors have been seen on the set. They haven't been on the location shoots. There's not in the studio, so no actors have been there. And without any actors, what kind of shooting can you do? You can do like special effects sequence and stuff, but that's pretty much it. So yeah.
But technically, the special effects they should have been doing over the summer, anyways, because they pre-vis them before they go into production.
And Mills says they ran out of money as they had to rebuild sets. Now that's interesting because you remember Script Doctor, or other. You of course you remember because you saw it yourself.
Yeah.
But to everyone that might not recall, they threw out the Discovery sets. Now that's really interesting, considering that there's for Season 4 now apparently is supposed to be in production.
Well, we don't know if they threw them out. We know they tore them down.
They definitely tore them down.
Did they moved them or that we don't know.
That was a possibility because Script did say they did open up a new big studio up there.
Yeah, in Mississauga, which is about an hour and so away from Pinewood, CBS has their new studio that they opened up. Now, because of all this new information that's happened since I last saw the trucks take out a whole bunch of those sets, I suspect that they probably moved the Enterprise bridge set from Pinewood over to the CBS studio for their Strange New Worlds show. And because
that's what I was thinking too, is they were just going to redress it like they did for when they.
If they can move the walls, they can definitely move the chairs, the consoles, a lot of the stuff that's easily, removable, and then they rebuild the stuff what they can't over at the CBS studio. But I don't know what they did exactly with the actual Discovery bridge set. And this, because they were doing a whole bunch of stuff and like reshoots in February and then doing takedowns in late February and March. So I yeah, I don't know. Maybe they are rebuilding the sets, and if that's the case, I mean, they have to kind of back bill it to either Strange New Worlds or to Netflix, or find some sort of way to make a cut to pay for it. But at this point, I don't really think they care. They're just trying to get everybody back to work.
I think Strange New Worlds is going to happen no matter what. And I have my reasons for that, for just things that we've heard speculatorily. I've kind of heard that, basically Goldsman is kind of coming and trying to right the ship in so many words. And Strange New Worlds is his baby. And he is the director of the first episode, or he's listed as the director. And again, we heard rumblings about Kurtzman being unhappy, leaving, coming back, and notice his shows were just sitting in distilled nothingness. All of a sudden, and finally Clarice gets off the ground, and that other series I haven't heard nothing about yet. But that's the thing, is I'm curious what's going on over there. We know that Emma Watts, that's been one of her main things she wanted to do was, we've had, them say they need to fix Star Trek. It's so they've admitted that it needs to be fixed. And every season they basically tell us, oh, this is going to be better. This is going to be fixed. This is that. And yeah, I keep feeling like we're stuck at this point where they want to, Goldsman is trying to play this game with, well, we can fix it. We can fix it because he knows Emma Watts and he talked to her. Because otherwise, if they could be out of this contract, I feel like they would be, is what I'm getting to.
Yeah. He says
what I've heard is basically that the contract is such that Kurtzman essentially has leased Star Trek, that it's his for I don't know exactly how much longer, but it's going to be very difficult and very expensive to get completely rid of. Well, not him directly, but certainly Secret Hideout. And since he's the CEO of Secret Hideout, that means by implication him. So what's going to happen? We don't know. We'll keep you up to date as we learn more.
As far as the Logan run,
says, I've heard Kurtzman has his hands on Logan's run. How true is that? Script, do you know anything about that?
I know something about it. Do you know, Script?
I only know that Logan's Run has been in type of a developing nightmare for the last 20 years.
I was just going to say, the last I knew, J.J. Abrams was involved, and I don't know if Kurtzman was his writer on that or what. But maybe Kurtzman has nursed it along all this time. I have no idea. But that's last I knew is that JJ was actually in talks to do a Logan's Run.
He was in talks once Matt Damon left the project.
Yeah, and then there was talks of a series. Maybe that's when Kurtzman decided that he took it over or something. Maybe.
Well, there are 3 books of the Logan's Run series, so they do have a lot to work with. But it's Kurtzman, so I don't really want Secret Hideout touching it.
It's a bad robot production then.
You see, though, Akiva Goldsman wants to fix Star Trek, but he's incapable of it. He is bad at what he does.
He's part of the problem. He was there from the first episode of Discovery, and it's part of the reason why it sucks.
Oh yeah,
Kurtzman wrote the prequels, the 09 and sequel movies.
With Roberto Orci,
If you have a restaurant that everybody's complaining about how the food is terrible, the food is terrible, food is terrible, the food is terrible, what do? You fire the chef. I mean, it's. I know, they're locked into a contract here, but at the same time, they've got to realize that this guy is part of the problem. If not a huge part, the problem.
Yeah.
And just giving him a new set of tools isn't gonna make anything better.
No. And to answer Christian, the Bryan Singer version, that was 20 years ago. I think that's what.
Yeah, that's with Matt Damon. That was in between the X-Men films.
Yeah, that was way a long time.
And we lost out not getting it. Compared to what we got instead.
Probably. Andrew
Pitko, sent us $5 saying, to fix Star Trek, just release Axanar.
If only that were true. Axanar's doomed, man. I hate to
tell you that. I've read that. I've read 2 versions of that script, and they're not, I mean, they're a little.
It's more doomed on just because it's just never going to, if it ever does see the light of day, it's not going to be what everybody hopes for. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, all I can say is we wish that project the best of luck,
Yes.
and we'll see what happens with it. I don't think we have much more to say about Star Trek, other than we'll keep you up to date with what's happening. Something is very weird with season 4. But I got another super chat that was sent to me directly on Twitter from Alex Asera7, who says, or rather from AF Watcher Redux, as he also calls himself, can't super chat, so I'll ask. SJW writers have been getting fired from various companies lately. Suppose Kamran's early theory holds some water. And we see some of this that many people have fired SJWs. Now, I don't recall exactly which theory from Kamran Pasha that Alex is referring to here. I think he might be referring to what Kamran Pasha said about forced diversity. That when you basically do this in affirmative action where you hire creative talent only because of their
immutable differences, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. When that's the only thing, you don't hire based on any kind of skill, merit only for that, then you're going to get people that aren't necessarily the best for their jobs, and they have a reason to fire them later on. Case in point, this woman that was fired from Supergirl or Lewis and Clark or whatever the thing is called.
the Superman and Lois show. Yeah,
whatever.
That's what we were talking about.
Yeah,
if that's
the thing that I'm never going to watch.
Yeah, and then that's the point we were making.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm sure that his theory is going to be right on the money. We see that also now in DC Comics, and if Ethan Van Sciver is to be believed, Marvel is next.
Now, Marvel's
he's not wrong. I mean, this time last year we were talking about how the pendulum is due to swing the other way, but it's not going to probably be as fast as we would like it. But of course, that was definitely before the pandemic happened. So now with the pandemic, we're probably looking at another 3 years delayed, because I was thinking like 2024. That's when things kind of would sort of find a resting point and be a little bit more familiar with some more new exciting content and less unethical hires based on immutable differences. But now it's looking closer to 2030, sadly, unless there's a massive shift, in which case someone makes a very low budget film that just takes the world by storm and is completely revered, in which case Hollywood will chase after that formula, and they'll do it incredibly fast.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what will happen. I agree that normally the pendulum would have swung the other way, but this is not a normal situation.
I was just going to say, in fact,
who the heck is going to happen? Who the heck knows what's going to happen?
Honestly, ever since the media has decided to call the election, I'll tell you this: I've noticed an uptick in the woke shit everywhere.
Oh yeah,
I'm not going to get into specifics, but I'm just going to say that.
Anyone thinking that there was that assuming that the current results stick, anyone thinking that that's going to translate to a return to normalcy, I am very sorry to disappoint you. That's the last thing that's going to happen. Instead, what's going to happen is that the wokeness is going to be ramped up by 1,000%. That's what's going to happen.
Because there'll be no recourse. Yeah.
That's the last gasp, though. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, it'll eventually peter out.
No, it won't. It will not peter out. It will not peter out. It will be fully supported and it will be fully backed. It will not peter out.
Well, I saw this. I saw the same type of thing in the 90s, though, with Lilith Fair.
This is not the same. There is no.
Yeah, this isn't the same as the PC. I agree with that, because this isn't the same as the PC culture then, because that had a line. This has no line, and that's what I was saying before with the whole draconian Oscar rules that are basically being adopted across the board, as I predicted, because that was their fail-safe button. That was just in case shit didn't go their way this time. They knew for a fact they were going to be able to put this in place no matter who was in charge. because that's what everybody keeps saying. Well, how can they keep going woke if it keeps making them go broke? Well, if they put these rules in place, it don't fucking matter, and sooner or later we won't be able to get away from this shit. Like that's all there'll be. Now, like the most we can do is speak with our wallets, but the problem is there's still at least 50% of the people out there that are going to turn around and still buy into this shit at some point. But I don't know, even if that percentage, but
probably 25. Yeah,
I don't know.
Because of that 50%, I'm pretty sure 50% of them don't buy anything.
We got another super chat here from Nicholas Horton, sends in £5.
The Expanse series will be rushed because Amazon has canceled it. Season 6 will be the last. And there's 9 books. Well, I don't know much about The Expanse.
I thought I just seen a thing where they were renewed, but okay.
I thought they got up to 7 seasons, but
yeah, that's what I thought.
I think it was 6. That's unfortunate.
Well, what can be giveth can be taken away. Like, keep in mind, Amazon greenlit Conan, or like ordered Conan the Barbarian for 2 seasons. Where are they? They can take that back again.
But we'll have more on that later. Lorena, our good friend and Toxic Femme, sends in a super sticker. It's popcorn. Thank you so much for that. But no, I feel like the answer to this, though, and that's the next logical question, is our own underground independent stuff. I think that's what's on the horizon. I mean, kind of going back to the Axonar thing to a point, but not just that, not just fan films I'm talking about, but actual legitimate original ideas coming from people outside of the industry, like Mr. H. Tom Conkle's another great example. I have a feeling that people in our own community who are, we've already had discussions. There's already things have been talked about. I've already talked about in podcasts about my ideas of doing, a full-blown Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles documentary at some point, possibly, instead of just, dicking around. Just do it, crowdfund it and do it. But of course, that's something maybe in the future. But again, like, that's where I feel like these things are going. And I'm sure Andre kind of agrees with me on that because, he's been involved with all the stuff we've seen behind the scenes with Mr. H and a few other people. So,
yeah, I absolutely think that. I think that what happened with comics is going to happen in film. I don't think that independent movies and crowd-funded movies are going to be like the new norm and take over. But I think they're going to grow massively. There's going to go more direct to consumer, because the kind of project that we want, like there's going to be less of that. It's going to be the things for streaming. By and large, it's going to be more bland. It's going to be more woke, because that's not going anywhere, especially if the current results stick, because then there will be absolutely nothing to stop it. There will be no check and balance. On the contrary, it's going to go full woke all the time, everywhere. And very, very few things that are not going to be are going to be crowd-funded. You're going to get that on film and on TV as well.
Well, and what invariably happens, though, Andre, is that, even if one side does prevail, at some point, everybody starts to relax. Everybody starts to kind of get complacent. Yeah,
not on this.
I'm telling you, it's just human nature.
This is not a matter of human nature. This is wanted, deliberate policy. That is just check into the United Nations website and read their goals for humanity for the next 10 years and everything. This isn't going anywhere. This is not a random social thing. This won't disappear.
Okay, well, we'll have to wait and see. But I'm telling you, at some point, everybody's going to start to relax. Everybody's going to start.
If this was a normal, organic thing, I would agree with you, but it's not.
Yeah, well, at the same time, again, though, I mean, ultimately,
you're absolutely going to have people pushing back against it, because this is not something that has shown up organically on its own. If it was, it would have disappeared on its own.
I think,
but that's not the case.
Didn't Cameron Pasha also say, though, that ultimately it's going to come down to what makes money?
It will.
Well, that does, and that's where I feel like there will be an avenue for the other outlet.
That is going to be the ultimate. The ultimate thing that dials it back. I mean, they can only afford to lose money for so long until somebody says, "Hey guys, what's going on here?" Who's responsible?
That's true,
Playoff.
Rob, to a point. But here's the problem: is they will continue here, and this is why it's hard to say. Because, like, yeah, they will continue to lose money on this shit. But all the other things that they have, the other avenues, will continue to fund this bullshit until they can basically
you have alternative revenue sources, and the people that are driving this in Hollywood are the ones with the money. It's the bill payers who are the ones pushing for all of this that you're happening. I mean, not all of this comes from the creatives. I mean, script, I know you can confirm this. In many cases, this wokeness, that's a requirement to get funding. And in those cases, they're not necessarily expecting money back on the investment.
Pretty much. I mean, from your bigger studio heads, that's what they're going to be greenlighting, and that's only because the information that they're being fed through the gatekeeping process, which used to be about quality and not the messaging, is manipulating them too. Because again, everyone in Hollywood to a lesser degree is in some form of a bubble. So if the people on the front lines of that are your college graduates that have been indoctrinated with various political agendas, whether they're left, right, center, what have you, they're going to push ahead the content that they screen that they think fits their agenda. And it's a slow moving change, and it's been happening since, I would say, about 2010. 2012 was where it started to get a little bit more into the public, but it really hit hard, I would say, in 2015 and 16. But yeah, it takes that long for that message, that perspective to sort of take hold of the people that have all the money. And that's kind of what we're seeing right now. And the only way that's going to change is from the bottom up, just like with economics. The only way people kind of lift themselves out of the lower class to the middle class is when there's they're able to make money and it goes up, and it elevates them. But it's just, there's never going to be a top down change unless someone like say Bob Iger decides, you know what, I've had enough of this type of stuff. Everything is done. My own future goals are compromised. I'm going back to how the company was 2008, and does that. But they're not going to do that because there's so many people that have just kind of drank from the Kool-Aid that any type of he's in a position where if he were to try and say I'm going the other way, there's so many people in his support group that would say, no, you can't do this. You're
pushback. Yeah,
very crazy. There'd be pushback. And the other thing we also have to keep in mind, especially the fans and those that are buying whatever entertainment they want, is to not swing too far in the opposite direction, because then we're going to be in the exact same position, but just on the other side.
Yeah.
So we have to also reserve some discipline in ourselves with regards to what we want out of our entertainment and what entertainment we want to make for ourselves and for those that we think will like it, and just sort of be responsible. And I would say one of the biggest things, the biggest hurdle I've ever had, especially when I'm pitching a story, is when I market it as like, we need role models again in our fiction. And because we haven't had them for about 20 years, nothing that a parent would say, yes, I want to be like this person, or I want my child to grow up to have some of those values or that conviction. I can't think of any big movies in the last 20 years of characters that you'd want to emulate for the right reasons, as opposed to, I get to say what I want, do what I want, and
maybe Captain America. That's about
it.
Probably
Captain America in that first one and the Winter Soldier would probably be the closest we have. But like, that's one out of thousands of movies that have come out in the last 20 years.
Well, should that movie have been made today? In this moment,
potentially. I mean, just because
with the Howling Commandos, probably, maybe. Yeah.
I was going to say, just because it's a diverse enough story and you have enough in there, they could have. But no, like, I don't want to be so pessimistic for Rob. I would like to be more optimistic, and I have a view that may help him see that it could get optimistic at some point. But I want to address this message here that Lorena threw up in the chat. Disney has a chief diversity officer, Latondra Newton. So the woke will always be forced into its entertainment offerings. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon.
Well, but
that's an ironic last name, because every force has an equal and opposite reaction. Isaac Newton. So she's probably going to get smacked pretty hard once this all kind of comes to a head, which it's going to take a while. But it's
I mean, here's ultimately what it comes down to. You have people like Natalie Portman, people like Alyssa Milano, people that get up. It's so important to the diversity and it's so important representation. La, 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 la. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. How does making sure that Star Wars is diverse or Marvel is diverse fix that problem?
I agree with you 100%, Rob. I brought that up before.
But that's ultimately going to play a part into like, hey, great, hey guys, it's great we talk about this, but you know what? We got real problems here. And this doesn't solve them.
It could. Here's my thing, Rob, and this goes back to the whole we're going to be the next platform. Like, and I don't mean we, us personally, but I mean the whatever we come up with the equivalent of Comicsgate is for movies and stuff like that. Like, that is going to be the next thing. And through that, you're going to see people like Script talking about who aren't necessarily on the same side of this, SJW bullshit. They're going to go outside of Hollywood. They're going to start coming to us and working with us, as in us, the proverbial us. And in that case, then Hollywood's going to take notice, just like with the comic book industry. There's going to be a big fucking war. It's going to be a big push and pull thing for years. But eventually what's going to happen is you're going to eventually see, like you were kind of saying, they're going to notice that the other side is making so much money, and then they'll realize, oh, the reason they're making so much money is because the only thing they're doing differently than us is they're not shoving their politics and shit into each and every film. Tom, that's the difference. Tom, and eventually they'll come to their senses, but it's going to take a long time.
I think we would have been there already after the trinity of Charlie's Angels and Terminator Dark Fate and Birds of Prey. That's what would have been the normal
Joker
situation.
Was the first flagship of that.
Yeah, exactly. But now with this situation and everything, who the hell knows? But it's going to I think that the industry is now going to take many more heavy losses before they're going to change any course again. That's my view. Of course, I could be wrong.
I was going to say to Tom, remember what happened after Nirvana broke in 91?
Music industry had its first boost since
everybody ran to Seattle. A&M, Atlantic, everybody ran to Seattle, and they mined all the talent. They strip mined all the talent from that area, and everything was like for the next 3 years, Seattle.
Well, simultaneously at the same thing going on with rap, but yeah.
At the same, you're going to see a similar. It's only a matter of time. Whatever the movie industry mirrors the music industry.
The alternative always becomes the mainstream at some point.
Yeah, in the 60s, everybody ran to Liverpool. Everybody had to have somebody from Liverpool.
No, you're right. And that's going to be the cyclical nature that this is going to take. Because as the same time that you had, alternative becoming the mainstream, as Script just said, the rap scene was coming up on the other side of that as the underground independent stuff, and then that was the next big movement after that. The industry shifted.
But there's a major difference, though.
Yeah,
that was chasing trends, and that
exactly that's what I was getting to.
Yes, and that's what this is.
This is not that.
No,
this might be a little bit more closer to like the New York theater stage, where people in New York who wanted to make movies fled to California to start their own industry. It might be a bit more parallel to that.
I get more what Andre's saying. This is not the same thing, and that's what I was going to get to with Rob. And I know he feels it is, but I know at one point I would agree with you, Rob. But again, we've gotten past that. Once we got, it was almost like a kid who knows they've lost whatever it is they're not going to get. So they just push that panic button. You know what I mean? Like, that's where they've reached at this point. They knew they were done with Charlie's Angels and Birds of Prey. But they pushed that panic button. And now that panic button, it's done. It's over with. There's no going back now. Like, they're full bore ahead on this shit. That's what that Oscar rule shit was. All this crap. I don't know what it's going to take to change it outside of a movie gate or something like that. But it's too late.
This is nothing organic. This is something that's being artificially maintained.
Exactly.
As you see with the Oscar thing, again, there was no public demand for that. So here you have some ideologues, and they're the ones driving it. And unfortunately, they are ideologues with green lighting powers and with the powers to actually enforce these things. And things are going to have to be so bad that they have no choice. And again, this is no trend to them. This is a life view. This is, for lack of a better term, a cult, and it's going to take much, much more than the end of a trend to reverse.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said religion, but let's face it is more cult-like.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Silver Nova says with an Australian super chat, thank you so much for listening down under. We love our Australian friends. I am willing to sacrifice expensive special effects for good storytelling at this point. So would I, and so would most people, but I don't think that's what's going to happen. The problem has always been the storytelling. The special effects could have been great. I mean, Lord of the Rings, things like that prove that, special effects not a great story make, but they can be a wonderful tool. You know what I mean? Like, we've gotten movies that have nothing but wall-to-wall special effects the last few years, but if they had great stories, that you could take all the special effects away, they're still going to tell the same crappy stories. And unfortunately, I think that's where we've gotten with this conversation that we were just having.
Look at Jupiter Ascending, man. Yeah. That's all special effects and a terrible story.
Well, no. And I get what he's saying. In reality, that's the way shit should work.
Yep.
But it's not going to, unfortunately. They're going to have to make adjustments in this climate, but these are all adjustments I think they were willing to make just to get to this point at this point.
And the adjustments can't be emotions in hallways. That's the other part, too. You can't just have sitting in a room talking heads. You've got to be able to be creative with how you tell your stories, develop your characters, and pick the moments for special effects that will really make them, serve the story and be entertaining, as opposed to just a lot of explosions, a lot of hectic chaos going around in your action set piece.
No, he's right. Yeah. I mean, he's not wrong at all, and it would normally work that way, but that was, like I said, the whole conversation we were getting to is they're not going to let it get to that point. It doesn't matter.
This is artificially maintained. It's not something that has come about organically. If it was, Rob would have been 100% right. And he still might be. Rob, you still might be right in the end, but it's going to.
There might be an organic pushback to that, but it's going to take some time, right?
It's going to take time, and it's going to have to be a far more brutal crash.
That's the thing. Every time a movement rises like this, there's always a pushback against it. And like I said, that's what Comicsgate is. That's what a lot of this stuff is. And I guarantee, and the studio heads, I guarantee I'd lay even money that somebody from the studio has already gone to Ethan and said, "Hey, what about the movie rights to Cyberfraud?"
They have probably. I think he's already mentioned that.
There's a cartoon in the works, supposedly.
There's something going on, but again, I don't think he's going to go sell it out at all. That's the thing. Is I know he'll do something independently, or at least with something that's not like Warner Brothers or Disney or anything like that.
No, but the whole point is that they are far more interested in making money. And they'll turn around and stab.
Well, I don't want to get too deep into politics, but that's the problem. Yeah.
Who is they?
The studio, the people like the Bob Igers, the Bob Backishes of the world. They are far more interested in making money than they are promoting an agenda. It's the people under them that are promoting the agenda.
And convincing them that they'll make money from it, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they will turn around.
Yeah, but see, people like Bob Iger have already adopted this fucking shit, though, Rob. That's the problem.
Yeah, that's the
thing. They've drank the fucking Kool-Aid, too. Or at least they've had to.
He's already pushing back with The Mandalorian, though. That's the first sign. That is the first sign that I'm okay. You know what? It is capable of turn. If it's not going to turn around yet, it is capable of turning around.
Yeah.
That's a Band-Aid, though, Rob. I get what you're saying.
It is a Band-Aid, but that's the thing is, it is capable of turning around.
It is capable, but it's gonna require more. And again, that came out of a complete and total collapse for that to come, and that's what's going to happen to everyone else as well. They're going to have a Star Wars level collapse, because keep in mind, Star Wars, that was a $4.05 billion investment. That is so far still in the red. That's Iger's legacy and everything. So yeah, obviously there's going to be some kind of pushback, but it had to get to that point before it was.
Well, there's a guy named Paul Ingrassia. He's a writer, journalist. He's an automotive journalist, believe it or not. And he wrote a book called Crash Course a number of years ago. And again, another industry that sort of mirrors Hollywood. In the auto industry, you have these boom bust cycles. In 2008, everybody was building SUVs and everybody was building, these huge gas guzzlers, and the bottom fell out of the industry. And they sat back.
A natural thing. Again, you didn't have any ideologues pushing for that particular thing.
Actually, you did. You had people like Bob Lutz. Americans don't want small cars. Americans want trucks and SUVs that burn a lot of gas.
The same thing.
Yeah. Let me finish.
Yeah, sure.
And so they didn't realize that what they had is the fundamental problem of ideology. They bought into this ideology of Americans want X, Y, and Z. And it's not so much that Americans want all these things, is that you have to tell them that this is what they want, because you can sell a car, you can sell a pickup truck that gets 11 miles to the gallon in the United States and Canada, maybe Australia, but you can't sell it in Germany where gas is $12 a gallon. You could sell a Toyota anywhere in the world, but you can't sell a Ford F-150 anywhere but here. And they all stood around in the big three: Chrysler, GM, Ford. What happened? Hey guys, what happened? The economy got us. Well, they didn't get Toyota, Nissan, or Volkswagen. And so at the same time, yes, okay, yeah, it's going to take a monumental collapse, but sometimes that is what you need to reinvent an industry. Yes, the industry is going to have to collapse. I don't dispute that. When's it going to come and what form it's going to take, I'm not sure. I will concede that point. And you're right. This is something that's not organically growing, but at the same time, they are just planting the seeds of their own demise. There is no two ways about it. They will reap this bitter harvest. And I'm using a lot of cliches. And then when the collapse comes, like I said, Bob Bakish, Bob Iger, all those people, they're going to look around. What happened, guys? Hey, you told me that this was a winning strategy. Well, I don't know. Well, it was Ray's fault. There'll be a lot of finger pointing. But at the same time, we're going to see something. It has to be burned down in order for something to be better. And for something for something better to rise in its place. And yeah, okay, we're probably facilitating that at the same time. Shows like this, and people like Ethan, and people like your boy Zach. I mean, like I said, these industries have to go away at some point before something better can come along. And granted, like I said, if this is what it takes, so be it. Hey, you know what? I'm not going to shed any tears over freaking Elizabeth Banks, not be able to make any movies. Fuck her. Exactly. And you could do your part by buying this snazzy Defund Hollywood t-shirt. You can look just as cool as this guy as he waits for his
Instead
Uber.
of buying New Mutants for the same price, you could have that t-shirt, folks. There you go.
Yeah.
But we did have a couple super chats here. We got one from Adam. Well, actually, we got two from Adam Wolford. Before the one that's on the screen, he sent in $5 before that. Said someone in chat said they are dying. I replied, let them die. We will rebuild a new Hollywood. Let Hollywood burn down to ash. That's pretty much what Rob was kind of just saying.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's kind of what is going to have. Like, and that's where we were getting at, Rob. Is like it's going to have to take this cataclysmic, complete fucking just like worse.
A lot of studios are going to have to
60s.
go bankrupt. Yeah.
Yeah, worse than the 60s shit. Adam Wolford sends us another $5, says, Midnight's Edge movie studio. Can I be the first director and I want to make Dark Tower the right way? Okay, maybe Andre can be the first director. We'll see about that.
I'll be the producer and you can be the shooter.
We'll see. Yeah, you could be the director of photography. I'm more of the director type. Who knows? And Rob, he's good at catering. Onion rings for everybody.
Craft services.
Yeah. No, Rob
you have a
can
good
be the
craft
one
services.
giving
You'll get people
motivational
to bend over
speeches
backwards.
before and after the shoot.
Somebody actually said to me that I should do like product introductions, like product reveals, like the guys on the stage. Today, we're here for a momentous occasion. In the 1970s, Apple computers brought you the Macintosh. Today, we're about to introduce the next phase. That kind of thing,
Go Steve Jobs-ish.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great question, and we will turn you over to our head of quality assurance, Ray. And just hand it off.
Gino X 1987 sends in another Canadian super chat. Thank you so much. says, seems like times like these, video stores would be valuable, to have around. Go rent what's not on Netflix. Yeah, I miss video stores, man, and I missed video stores since I lost mine. But yeah, it's just I just miss the experience. I miss a lot of things right now. I think we all do.
Yeah, I think everyone does. On that, Action Com says,
Yeah.
but Andre, it is still artificial. How long can they get people to lie to themselves into believing the reactor is not melting down? Yeah, that's going to be interesting to find out.
I don't know, maybe
one
shut down
individuality they can't control, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it all begins with shutting down the country and giving everybody whatever. I'm just going to fucking shut up.
Yeah. Rob, you were saying something.
I don't think I was.
Oh, okay. Oh, well. Script, you were saying something.
Making noise and Script said something there.
Yeah, maybe. Listen. The last vestige of individuality is what will save us from from any artificial imposition of weird, compelling laws, so to speak. Like what Hollywood's doing right now. This is them shooting themselves in the foot and ignoring the fact that they're bleeding. They're basically like Jesse James in that Predator thing. I ain't got time to bleed, even though he's bleeding, and it's just a silly aspect to it, but it's having detrimental effects on the industry and everyone else would buy into it. Mm-hmm. But it's going to come to a head. I don't know when or how it's going to happen, but you can't force a square peg into a round hole and expect it to work. Eventually, something's going to break on either side. So it's really up to each other to just try and exercise super sense and responsibility and if you can't find anything new, go back to the old stuff that inspired you as a kid and share it with other people, and hopefully that can help find some leveling off of a lot of the emotional aspects that we're going through at this time.
Yeah, and Mills says here, the only way to save the industry is to scrap third-party production companies and studios, start developing the films themselves with talent with a financial stake in the product. Basically like it was back in the old days. And I don't know if we're far off from that. I think the whole streaming thing is going to really bring us back around to a lot of those kind of mentalities. We already see that kind of a thing in a lot of areas now. So yeah, I don't know. That might be the area that the things change in, but it's hard to say.
Well, we need one more. We need at least one more other streaming platform besides YouTube that is publicly accessible and not cost dependent, at least on a subscriber nature. Because right now, all the streaming platforms that are coming out, it's basically a mirror of the cable package. So that's also got to be something. There needs to be that extra avenue of competition for the independents to sort of prosper.
I probably and again, that goes back to the whole streaming wars thing. We spend just as much or more on streaming services now than we did on cable. So I think with that's as good place as any to probably round it out. What do you guys think?
Absolutely. So with that, I would like to thank everyone watching, and thanks to the panel. Thanks for Script Doctor for coming to join us and share your insights. Thanks to Rob for sharing your passion. We need to debate from time to time. And again, thanks to everyone for watching and supporting us, such as Andrew Pitko, who says, before I go, when will the next Mead Radio happen? I missed that show. Tom?
I miss doing it. Between just being so busy and lately I just have not been feeling the best, but hopefully I get some time to do it. I almost feel guilty when I do them because then I know Andre's probably thinking he should be working. So I mean, I am technically kind of, but I mean, a lot of what I make off of Mead Radio does go right back into Mead Radio, and that's no joke. Like, just yesterday, I got another CD in the mail, so Super Mario Brothers soundtrack is getting thrown in the mix there. So, yeah, there you go. I think I got Death Race 2000 coming, too, in the mail, so.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. With
the original one, not the remake, by the way.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Nice.
Which remake? There's no remake. It's
Yeah,
just
that thing. Yeah,
There's the David Carradine Death Race 2000, and that's all we need.
Yes,
Exactly.
the soundtrack for that is coming. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only thing that's the only Death Race ever made, and the only one anyone ever needs. So yeah.
That's just
With that, everyone, thanks for joining
Absolutely.
us. Take care of yourself and have a great day.